I'd like to call the October 9th, 2024 meeting of the Ogden Town Board to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd ask that you remain standing for a moment of silent reflection in prayer for military servicemen and women serving around the world, as well as for our first responders. Let's also take a second and think of the people of Florida right now. Thank you. Well, thank you all for attending tonight. And we've got a couple of things, business things to take care of before we get to some of our resolutions. So the very first thing is I'd like to invite members or member, depending on who is here, of the Spencerport Fire District to come forward and be recognized for Fire Prevention Week. And if the board members would like to join me, please do. This week is Fire Prevention Week, and as such, we want to annually, but specifically take the time to appreciate our fire district that we have here in Spencerport, not only for the heroic and courageous work that you guys do, but obviously for all of the other things that you do. You just had another open house. You're sort of home for a lot of trainings and events. Not just for your staff, but so that you can invite the community and kids to come and participate. And I do like that one, what's that, the one smoke machine that kids like going through and pretending like the room is filled with smoke. I don't know why that's a fun game, but it is. And, you know, but you provide a lot of awareness, and that's the other half of it too, is fire prevention, not just in an emergency. I know that you guys have been asked to do much more since prior to COVID, and you respond and you complement our other emergency services to be able to work with our police chief and our special police and certainly our ambulance district. You know, I know you're here, so I want to specifically say, you know, thank you to you as the chief of this volunteer department for keeping things afloat and professional to every need that we have in this town. So I should read through all the whereases. I'm not going to, but I'll read this last part. Whereas under the leadership of Chief Mitch Flagg, the department demonstrates unwavering dedication to families, friends, and neighbors. They consistently exceed expectations in their mission to prevent, extinguish, and suppress all destructive fires and hazards while educating the public on fire prevention and safety, therefore saving lives and fostering pride in the community. So now, therefore, the town board, the town of Ogden, proudly honors and recognizes the Spencerport Fire District as part of this year's National Fire Prevention Week for their dedicated services sacrificed to our community. So thanks so much.
So I guess I gotta say a couple words. So I'm very proud of our department here, that we're still a volunteer, 100% volunteer department. Every year we go to more and more calls of service. We average right now 90 plus calls a month, fire service calls, right? And usually about 15 of them are only medical calls assisting the ambulance. So the rest are car accidents, automatic alarms, whatnot. So we're looking at a good 1,000 calls any given year now. And to stay 100% volunteer is quite a task. And to keep everybody trained, and you know, with the help of the taxpayers up here at the south end of town, we have a new training center. So now we can keep our equipment, our people here in our town to respond to calls as we did last night. We were all out there training. We had to go out to Springdale Farms, which is very common, that we respond when we're in the middle of doing something else. So just thank you for everybody. Thank you for your support, and you know, it's a great organization. Volunteer. Aaron is actually one of our vice presidents here. Doug Case is one of our past chiefs. So we're everywhere.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes, Resolution 244.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, we have privilege of the floor. If there's anybody here that wishes to address the board on really any topic, please come forward, state your name and address, and come away with the topic of conversation. One disclaimer that I want to point out, that I try to point out at each meeting, is this is your time to explain something that's on your mind. You may or may not receive immediate feedback from members of the board, but that's kind of what this is. It's really more of hearing than anything else, but a member of the board may wish to engage in the conversation, so I just wanted to preface that. So if there's anyone that wishes to address the board, now would be the time.
Hi, my name is Mark Erringer. I live at 200 Ogden Center Road. Just wanted to bring up the conversation of the fueling station. I don't have a lot of details. I've heard some information about it. I just have lived in this town my whole life, and we've always gotten our fuel right across the street. And I just think to, once again, not knowing all the details, I just think to add that burden on the taxpayers when we can go right across the street is absolutely ridiculous, and I think would be the laughing stock of the community to add a fueling station when we can get it right across the street. So I just wanted to say that. Is there going to be any discussion on that this evening?
I believe a board member has some information to share during their report, but if there's anybody that would like to address it, they can. The only other thing that I want to point out, just as a statement of fact, should this go forward, the board had already identified 2 areas of revenue. One would be the use of the remaining amount of ARPA funds that we were given, and second would be use of reserves that we advertised for. So, not arguing, just saying that there isn't a new level of tax that would be on taxpayers.
Remember,
just so you know.
that's all our tax dollars.
100%.
And the thought of spending it because somebody else will spend it is a zero-end game in my opinion.
Totally understand.
It just seems to me that we've started doing some pet projects, and every time I look at that lit sign in front of the highway department, I look at it like, what on earth did we put that up for? I mean, we have a website that we're already paying somebody to maintain, right? We have somebody we can call and ask those same types of questions. So this type of redundancy, to me, is just not thinking well of your taxpayer base. It's paying for pet projects. Another question I had was for the police chief, or for the town.
Sir, you have to address the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, do we have ballistic shields available for our police force in their police cars?
I do know that we have shields, whether they're ballistic or not. That would actually be a great question. I believe they are ballistic shields.
They are, we do.
Are they in each car?
No, we have two.
Okay. What I wanted to bring up was the fence. I'm sure there was thought put into the fence that we put up around the cars and whatnot, but when we think of what's on a lot of people's minds, officers needing to have protection to go into a building to face a shooter, why do we only have 2? How many police cars do we have? And I'm sure, I know they're expensive, you can pay probably $2 grand or $5 grand for them, but I would pretty much guarantee you could have put one in every car without that fence. So I'm just curious how we make those decisions to protect cars or whatever we're protecting with that fence compared to protecting our police officers.
The fence was actually initiative by the police department for the protection of their vehicles and for them as they enter and exit a building with an enormous field on the other end, that where anybody could be, standing there. I mean, that fence is for the protection of the police department, and it was proposed by the police department. It's not something that we just come up with. We'll also say that you're hitting the nail on the head. Those shields are expensive. Everything is expensive, and one of the ways that we mitigate that is that we apply for grants. Just this past year, we applied for a grant about $90-something thousand worth of tasers and cartridges to replace. And next year, we're looking at additional items as well. So as we get these shields, as we get more shields, it's one of those things that we got to look at the budget, which we are having a conversation on tonight, little by little, until we get to a spot where we're even better protected. But all of those things are thought of with protection in mind.
I just think in winter, that fence is not gonna be your friend with snowing in and only one way in and out. So that's just my concern on that. One last thing, when it comes to what you said earlier, as far as the exemptions that are afforded to seniors and veterans and different ones, I'm gonna speak only to the exemptions for seniors.
Sure.
You said it's not a revenue loss. That's looking at it from the town's perspective, and I know you're the town supervisor, but everybody else has to pay more. I'm almost a senior, not quite, almost, this close. And I just think that we should be very careful giving more exemptions where you put the burden on young people that are already working 2 jobs and have kids in school and programs.
That's exactly what I said. In maybe different words, but that's exactly what I meant. If the board were to consider additional expenses, it shouldn't be looked at a revenue thing. It should be looked, I actually said the word redistribution, because that exemption is then redistributed to everyone else. So
Right.
we are saying the same thing on that.
It's a fine line to draw, Mark, between trying to help the older people stay in their homes if they are entitled and their income is a certain level, or they're disabled and their income is, and putting somebody else to pay a little bit
Right.
more.
But as we all live older, all of a sudden you get a community with 10% or 15% reduced taxes, it's that much burden on everyone else. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to address the board at this time?
Jeannie Pettit, 26 Golden Pond Trail.
Ms. Pettit, I screwed that mic up. Would you mind directing that more back towards you? Thank you so much.
I guess with everything that's kind of developed with the fueling station and so forth, that it's brought a lot of attention to the town and the town spending. And there's really not a very friendly website to try to find all of that information. And looking at other towns, they have a quarterly newsletter. And I was just wondering why we've never initiated something like that. Just looking at Grease's, there's a message from the supervisor. They do a budget update about the library. There's a message from the chief of police. They do a spotlight on the new business corner, glancing back, what they've accomplished. They have like any community recognition that's available, and then the Department of Public Works information about leaf collection and snow plowing. Brighton, the same thing. Supervisors, message, town events, what's happening at the parks, how money's being spent, a pollination program that Brighton's working on. The town clerk's message, they have a message from the assessor, message from the chief, and just a summer update. And I just think that instead of kind of doing a video here or there on Facebook or something where people can either just go to the website and subscribe to a newsletter, or just having a link on the website where you can click on it and then you can look at your newsletter to see what you want to look at that's applicable to what you're interested in. If you're wanting to look at assessor stuff, you can just go right to the assessor's page.
Yeah, we do. We actually have 6. We have a quarterly newsletter that goes out that deals directly with all of our senior youth and rec programs, and then we have an annual newsletter that you'll probably get next week. That has always happened, and then when I got here, I doubled that, and so there is also a spring one that goes out. So the fall one, the budget one that's about to come out is mailed to every resident in the town of Ogden, which is very expensive. And so when we added a second one, what we do is we actually stuff it inside the West Side News. Not everybody gets West Side News, but it's still a $3,500, $4,000 expense. And so doing 2 more, we could do. It's budget time, but yep. So there's 6 of those.
Okay, I'm just saying, but you go to the website, you can go right to Grease's, and you can click right on newsletter, issue 10, issue 6. I looked through our website, I could not find
I don't get the West Side News either, to be honest, yeah.
So,
That's good.
you know, and if it's something that's going into junk mail, I don't think it's been very well publicized that it's out there, because the people that I've spoken to, nobody knew that the town offered one.
Yeah, okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Ellen Robler, 221 Hilltop Lane. Mr. Zill, you just talked about the areas of revenue that the proposed fuel station would tap into. Correct me if I'm wrong, it was my understanding it was roughly $500,000 in leftover ARPA money and roughly $300,000 in net savings.
That sounds about right, yes.
Okay, roughly.
Yep.
Okay. So in thinking about this more, and I do appreciate they're taking time to consider this further, I started thinking about that $500,000 of ARPA money. That's a lot of money. And a quick Google search that one individual could do, me, showed that other municipalities in the county came up with a lot of really creative and impactful ideas to spend this ARPA money. So again, just one individual sitting alone in a room came up with 10 ideas that we could think about. I don't expect you to respond to them all, but this is a quick list of what I could think of that would meet the spirit of ARPA as it was originally intended. A new or improved senior facility, fund the senior nutrition program or a senior transportation program, replace some of the fossil fuel-based vehicles or add charging stations, update the restrooms at all of the Pineway shelters, develop a team-based after-school program or center to pick up where traditional care leaves off between ages 12 and 15. I'm always hearing people complain about there's nothing for kids to do between ages 12 and 15. Fund an apprenticeship program with town departments for recent high school grads interested in public service with police, highway, or recreation departments. Work on increasing broadband options. Right now, it's basically Spectrum or Frontier. There's lots of interest in other alternatives. How about some more solar panels that the town hall can run off of? Could we possibly put a down payment on the repair of the Gillette Road Bridge? I know, sore subject. And honestly, if we can't come up with anything else, this is $500,000. Let's return it to the American taxpayer. I mean, you know, if we can't come up with a more creative, effective idea that is something more than a nominal increase in convenience for a limited town department, I think that's what we should think about doing. And to quote you, Mr. Zell, in one of your most recent videos, which I do watch all the time, let's find ways to help the entire community, not just town hall.
Very good.
Oh,
Thank you.
yep.
Anybody else that wishes to address the board?
So are you referring to the Ogden Parks and
Ma'am, I need you to
Recreation?
state
Oh,
your name
sorry.
and your address, please.
Jamie Pettit, 26 Golden Pond Trail. Are you referring to the Ogden Parks and Recreation?
Yep, there are 4 quarterly newsletters that they put out, and then we put out 2 of our own that covers every department. So the newsletter will have a section for every department.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
kind of like what you were saying that Greece does, and
Yeah, because
Right,
their
yeah.
Parks and Recreation is separate from the newsletter that comes out quarterly with all of the stuff about
Yeah, so-
trophy collection, public works, assessors.
yeah. So when I came here, you know, there's always this, the new guy's coming and he's gonna like change all this stuff. The rec department had already had pre-established 4 quarterly magazines, really is what it is. And I know in other towns, it's 1. It's everything all together that they release on a quarterly basis. So this was sort of my way of having a cost-effective addition to what was already out there, was to have these 2 other newsletters. But we also contribute to the Spencerport Neighbors on a pretty regular basis, where there's articles there, and then also West Side News again, which again, trying to myriad, you know, the gentleman before mentioned the electronic sign and redundancies. I think it's interesting, we get criticized for not having enough and then criticized for having too much. So we're just trying to find all sorts of different ways to have this communication with the public, so. But again, wrote it down, it's well noted. If we can add 2 more newsletters to our budget, then we will.
Even just electronically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good, thank you. It's not a bad idea.
Posted on the website.
Dave Ryan, 39 Sandstone Drive.
Dave?
Noel, I can give you a copy of this.
Thank you.
Or email it to you, whichever you would like.
Thank you.
I'll give you this if you want.
Thanks.
Tonight, I stand before you representing the employees that you see sitting behind me, and some of them that are unable to be here tonight. Over the 25 years I've worked here, we witnessed a lot of changes, some favorable and some unfavorable. The one constant has always been the them and us feeling between the highway building and the town hall building, at least from our perspective. Our feelings have been substantiated with the recent efforts to help bridge this divide, such as the implementation of the employee outings, the ice cream social that we did, and a few food tastings. Tonight, the concerns we have are being brought up because they counteract any progress made towards unification on this front, and it's something you absolutely have direct oversight and control of that could further alleviate this divide, our town's policies. At the September 11th board meeting, a resolution authorizing parental leave policy was approved to be added to the town handbook. The addition of this policy, while beneficial, excludes roughly 50% of the town's workforce, including all represented highway employees, furthering our perception of the segregation between buildings. To make things more upsetting to us, on October 7th, the highway superintendent held a meeting in our department. The reason, and told us the reason this policy was pushed through so fast was for the sole benefit of someone who reports directly to the town supervisor, and that specific employee's name was shared with all of us. Then when a highway employee later inquired about using this new parental leave policy, he was told that as a union employee, he was not eligible. Are we to believe that parental time with a new child is more important to non-union employees than to union employees? This new town policy makes it seem that way. Available to the highway employees, vacation time, sick time, personal time, FMLA time. These are all options also available to all town employees. So if we are shared the same benefit up until this point, why wouldn't we be equally eligible for this new policy as well? On page 51 of the employee handbook, it states a town employee with 2 to 5 years of service gets 3 weeks paid vacation, while a highway employee with 2 to 5 years gets 2 weeks of vacation. A town employee tops out their vacation time in 15 years, while a represented highway employee takes 25 years. When negotiating our most recent contract, I tried to advocate for more vacation time for employees who have worked over 25 years to show appreciation for substantial years of service. I was denied on the basis that vacation time needs to be kept same for all town employees. Yet shortly after this new contract goes into effect, a new vacation policy was implemented for non-represented employees. The new policy increased the amount of vacation time and shortens the time it takes to accrue the max vacation time, giving no benefit to long-term employees. We now hear the new plan is to give 3 weeks vacation immediately upon hire to department heads. How do you think that is going to go over with subordinates? No other employee's vacation time is given immediately. The reason we were given for the vacation policies was to attract new employees. The highway department has had 9 employees leave in the past 3 years, but currently employs more people than ever before. Town Hall has also had a number of employees leave, but also seems to have an all-time high number of employees. The problem doesn't seem to be attracting employees, but rather retaining them. Sometime after COVID, we were also told the town intended to increase the raise percentage for highway employees. Those increases never came, and we were told the highway superintendent told the supervisor that we had a contracted pay schedule to follow, therefore could not change those raises. For clarification, the highway superintendent writes his own budget. Is that true?
That's a question. Yes, every department will submit a a budget request to the finance director and myself, and then probably back and forth 2, 3, 4 times until we arrive at something like tonight. So I think that's a roundabout way of saying yes.
Okay. Including in his budget, will that include what his raise will be?
Yes.
So he writes what his own raise will be?
Nope.
No?
It's not true. I don't write my own wage, and also I don't do your hourly wages for all the employees. I fight for it for when you go for it, but I have nothing to do with that. That's all determined by your contract and through finance.
I didn't ask anything about our wage, I asked about your wage, if you
Oh.
write in your own.
No.
So who determines his raise?
The board ends up doing that.
The board determines
Yep.
his raise? Okay, thank you. And the town also approves the total budget for the highway?
Correct.
Okay. Recently, the highway superintendent received a 5% raise, a percentage I've not seen equaled in previous years by any highway superintendent previously. In the past 20-something years that I was able to quickly look up. In closing, I'd like to say our contract is negotiated, Mike, between the union and you. And any benefits given to non-union employees can be given to union employees at any time during a contract's term. We constantly hear how the town wants everyone to be on the same team, one town, not 2 buildings. And that the town has our backs, and the highway department isn't on an island by themselves. Actions speak louder than words. Right now, it seems like the union employees are being targeted, deprived, and excluded from the rest of the team.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will close the privilege of the floor. Next, we will move to reports and remittances, Resolution 245.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, we move to town audits, Resolution 246.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. There are a number of correspondences there. And from there, we'll move to reports from town officers. So start with my supervisor report. There was the annual 5K for Pineway Ponds. I was able to attend. Great event, raise money for a good charity. Appreciate that. 10 grand opening again for, there was a new parking lot in the Village of Spencerport. We did a recognition for the family apothecary and ribbon cutting for a new smoothie place called Bloom and Blend in the village. So some good things going on there. We've been meeting consistently to plan for a new splash pad at Pineway Ponds. And this sort of addresses something that someone brought up before, but we've been looking at options to remodel our community center here, really in the rec department, trying to address bathrooms to make them ADA approved and consider an expansion of senior programs. So tonight you'll see a resolution to approve an architectural design to make that start to happen. We also have a resolution up for tonight that has to do with Johnson Controls, a new emergency response system. It's going to address a couple of things, one being panic buttons in a lot of areas throughout our town using our existing control panels, but sort of a new system in the way that it's put together, and make sure that we've got every single AED connected directly to 911. These panic buttons would also be connected as well, so just a big upgrade for safety here. We are launching a brand new website here at Town Hall this Friday, actually, so it'll take a second to get things up and running, and appreciate some of the suggestions that we've got from our community on that as well. Ironically, our fall newsletter has been completed and will be mailed to residents in the coming few days, so look for that. We are in the process of planning this year's town Christmas event, which will really feature something brand new, open house style, lots of fun and games and activities throughout the building, and that will be all preceded by our Christmas tree lighting, and that's going to be on Friday, December 6th, yes. And it's gonna be the same weekend as the Village's celebration, so just have one big weekend's worth of pre-holiday celebrations here in the town and the village. Process of, let's see, two things. Next week is School Board Recognition Week, so thank you to our local school board members. And then also just an FYI that October 18th at Town Hall, we're gonna close at 2 p.m. For our annual employee luncheon. And that is it for me. Councilman Baker.
The only thing I have, I'm glad the fire chief is here. I had an opportunity to be at the open house to kick off the annual Fire Prevention Week. And a lot of the community came out. I know it was in a different location this year up at the new training facility, but it's a perfect setting to have all the school district was there with their rollover simulator. State Police was there, Monroe County Sheriff's, Ogden Police had a station there. So it was really good to see our volunteer firefighters and our chief's office out there as well. And I hope everybody got some good information out of that with this being Fire Prevention Week. So thank you very much, Chief. That's it.
Councilman Gerbino is not here. Councilman Hinman?
Yeah, at the ZBA meeting this month, we had 5 requests for pole barns and the like. All got approved. No chickens this month, so that's it.
Very good. Councilman Toms?
Yes, thank you, and I'll apologize to Noel for the lengthy report that this is likely to be. At our last meeting on September 25th, we voted to table resolution 241, which was authorizing the installation of fuel facility. There were a series of public questions that led to this action, so that we could, as a board, review some additional clarification and things around those questions and whatnot. I'd like to first address the financial worksheet that was brought up a number of times during that conversations. This was never intended to be a return on investment worksheet or anything like that, of that type of document. It was clearly to address questions that were presented by other board members around this purchase, this funding. So I created the spreadsheet to outline the costs, the savings on gas for us and diesel, and the potential revenue based on the 2023 usage to address those questions. The fact that the data shows over $27,000 a year in savings and any potential revenue above that shows the project would pay for itself over its useful life, and that's actually a bonus. None of the other expenses in the highway show any kind of return on investment or pay for themselves. For example, we have grapple trucks to pick up brush on the side of the roads. We spent $355,000 on those. And we have budgeted another $230,000 for another one. We also have leaf pickup, $377,000 we have invested in that. Now, these are valuable services we do for the residents in our town, but there is zero return on investment on those. Second, I'd like to address some of the comments that were made around the 3 available fuel systems in the town. Out of those, we only use 2, the school and the state DOT across the street. The school only uses gas, that's all we use it for. We get all of our diesel from across the street, unless their system is down and we have to use another facility like burned area or some sort of retail. Supervisor Zale did speak with a contact from the school, and they reiterated some of the comments that were made here, that there is low downtime, the requirements for insurance and maintenance on the system that were also mentioned to the board. Highway Superintendent Wolf and I met with Brad Welke, who is the resident engineer at the state DOT across the street. We asked a series of questions. I asked a series of questions based on some of the questions that were brought up here. I asked about insurance costs, inspection costs, power usage, security, all of those things that were brought up here. While he didn't have any costs, they were managed at the state level. He did say that they were self-insured, so there was no additional insurance costs that he was aware of. The power consumption was merely lights and the pumps that activate the system, and that they did have visual leak detection services on the system. And like I said, he didn't have a breakdown because they were handled at the state level, pardon me. So I asked him what his annual downtime was, if there was any, and he noted there were card reader issues that were also brought up during some software changes, and there were delays if there were trucks in queues. And the facility is gated, but that the town does have the code to get into that gate. His justification for replacing his new system was obviously end of life of his old system. And I asked him if there was any negative impact if we installed the system over here, and he said no. And I asked him, was there any advantage if we installed our own system over here? And he said, yes, it could be used as a redundant system for them, in case they had a downtime over there. The biggest question I asked him was, if he were the highway superintendent of the town of Ogden, would he want his own fuel system here in the town? He also said yes. It would provide peace of mind having control over his own independent system where his worked. The additional discussion that we had, this is the only town in his region that has this kind of agreement. There is no written IMA between the town of Ogden and the state DOT. They are some sort of WEX transaction. They use the WEX card to fill up over there, although the cost is obviously less than a traditional a retail sale like Burn Dairy. There is a shared services agreement, but it does not include fuel. This particular resident engineer will only be there another 2 years. And he said any new lead engineer could in fact say no to sharing their fuel system. Dan and I had further discussion around the village system. I asked him how old that one was. We did some research and found out it was 35 years old. It's still using Windows XP, which we all know how old that is, and they expressed interest in using our system if it's approved. At this time, I have 3 letters of interest of using our new system, one from the village, one from the fire department, and one from Gates Ambulance. So we're still looking at some potential insurance costs, but I hope this clarifies some of the questions raised around this system and sheds a little more light on the community need. End of my report.
Thank you, Councilman Toms. Highway Superintendent Dan Wolf.
First and foremost, we had an employee that had an incident with us at work. Thanks to the quick response of our employees, it was a great situation. It turned out very well, and our employee is doing good at this time. It's something that we're proud of, that our team reacted very fastly with an AED and stuff and brought the person back. I've been in conversation with officers, Chief Travis Gray, about the employees and the assistance from the police department and fire department. So I just want to say, our training on that, we did a very good job at it, and I'm glad that it's happened. I'm glad the individual is still with us. Our new trucks are being down at Henderson. Are coming in. They're coming in hopefully by the first of next month. So we'll be looking forward to having those out. We are finishing our assignment with the fire district on paving their parking lot up to Station 3. So we'll be doing that. And other than that, that's it.
Very good. Town Clerk Noel Burley.
We are just finishing wrapping up school taxes. We're find out why our board meetings are not being posted in the West Side News. And I was told that many years ago, the supervisor, there was a meeting that was incorrectly advertised, and the supervisor was upset and asked that they no longer publish those. So that's why, our towns were not being published. We have corrected that, they have our new dates, so they will now going forward be published in the website.
Do they charge for that? Is there an additional cost for that?
Yes and no. The initial legal notice that we put in is charged, but the additional ones are not.
So legal notices we get charged for anyways, but when we give them the dates every year after the organization.
January 1st, we have all of our dates, and that's the first legal notice that we publish, yes.
Okay, but then is there a charge every single time they print a meeting? Okay, very good. Thank you for looking into that. Town Attorney, Dan Shum.
Spent some time the last couple of weeks with the Recreation Department and the Parks Department. They've got some projects going on, and we're trying to button those up and get them finalized. Also dealing with internal matters that we had a board that we haven't had in a while. We had a meeting with that board, and that's in the process presently. I would just want to comment on two things that happened during privilege of the floor. I think it's, and now that we have, and as the supervisor mentioned, a new person to manage our website, that it might be appropriate and much easier to publish the newsletters on the website as well, so that we don't have to worry about blowing them across the lawn or not getting them. And it's fairly inexpensive since we have the website. Just a comment. And with respect to the highway employees, I thought there were a lot of good comments made, and I encourage you to negotiate all of those items for your benefit as soon as possible, to bring them in line. That's what the union does for you. I don't know that I'm not going to be here after December 31st, so I won't be part of the commenting on the town side, but I would encourage you to pursue those. Everybody should be treated equal. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, sir. There being no other unfinished business matters, let's move into new business. Madam Clerk.
Resolution 247, negative declaration of environmental significance for local law number 5 of 2024. A local law of the Town of Ogden adding chapter 245 to the Town of Ogden Code to adopt regulations for the establishment and conduct of smoke shops within the Town of Ogden.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Toms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 248, authorizing the adoption of local law number 5 of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Hinman. Any discussion on this item? The only thing I want to say is that, I'm very proud of this local law. Thank you to Chief Gray and to Building Inspector Brian Thompson for their tireless work on this. Very grateful to the village mayor, to Ty Zingowich from the school district, who also helped contribute to this. I think this will go a long way in at least assisting. I know it's not going to be perfect. I know we might make adjustments to this in the future, but I feel good about trying to do something that keep kids more safe. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Thank you. Next.
Resolution 249, authorizing the adoption of the health insurance opt-out policy to be added to the Town of Ogden's personnel handbook.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Toms. Any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 250, authorizing Ogden Town Supervisor Mike Sale to execute an agreement with Johnson Controls for the installation of a new panic alarm system.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 251, scheduling a public hearing for the 2025 preliminary budget for Wednesday, October 23rd at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 252, authorizing Ogden Town Supervisor Mike Sale to execute a contract through Equals Group, Super Seal Sea Coating LLC, for the refurbishing of the basketball court at Little Red, 416 Washington Street.
I'll move that.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Toms. Any discussion?
Could she say that again? Super what?
Super seal coating.
That's what it said.
Since we're paused, this is for everybody that wasn't here at the beginning. This is for a, not just to keep basketball court, but will be turned into our first outdoor pickleball court in the town of Ogden. So excited about that. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 253, authorizing a budget transfer necessary to account for a budgetary shortage in the Town of Ogden Drainage Fund Personnel Services hourly account.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Hinman. Any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 254, authorizing the Town of Ogden to request sealed bids for the upgrading of the audio-visual systems in the training room and map room at the Town of Ogden Highway Department in accordance with the detailed bid specifications on file in the town clerk's office.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Toms. Any discussion? I'll once again jump in and say that, this has been something that we've been working on as the emergency preparedness team for a while. We want to make sure that we have an emergency,
Command center.
command center would be a great term for it, just to make sure that we're equipped to have a place that has everything that we need in the event of an emergency. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 255, authorizing Ogden Town Supervisor Mike Sale to execute a contract for architectural services with Peter L. Morris and Associates.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Toms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. I'd like to make a motion that we go into work session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?